Where's the... Oops. Week 15 NFL recap plus Monday Night Football featuring the Bears against the Vikings, as well as the Falcons against the Raiders for everyone who wants to watch that. Hi, I'm Aaron Schatz from FTN Fantasy, and you are watching the FTN Fantasy Schatz and Tanier NFL podcast. I'm a little off today. I missed the thing on the screen that puts the name up, and I missed the opening music, and
looks perfect.
We're here now, and that's what's important. I'm Aaron Schatz. You know me as the DVOA guy from FTN Fantasy. He is Mike Tanier. You know him from his Substack, which is miketanier.substack.com. And we are here to talk about Week 15 in the National Football League, sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. The NFL season is underway, and Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports and the fastest growing app in the industry. Underdog offers a new customer FTN special with up to $1,000 on your first time deposit. Head over to Underdog for the deposit match up to $1,000 when you sign up with code FTN, up to $1,000 extra. NFL season is here, and who better to celebrate with than Underdog Fantasy. All right, so who is the Super Bowl favorite now that the Lions have lost and it really looks like the defensive injuries are a serious problem? Aleem McNeil has a torn ACL and is done for the year.
Oh, that's official.
Okay. And Carlton Davis is out 6 weeks with a broken jaw on top of everything that they had going into the game yesterday.
Those are both significant, especially when you start lining up the fact that you don't want to try and face the Eagles when your run defense is a little off and you're short a guy or two in the secondary. You don't want to face the Vikings under those circumstances either.
So who is your Super Bowl favorite at this point?
Buffalo Bills.
You like the Bills. So the market also likes the Bills. Mm-hmm. The DVOA playoff odds, with me attempting to come up with a good penalty for the Lions, has the Eagles as the Super Bowl favorites.
Wow.
What I did was I gave the Lions basically an average defense for the rest of the year.
Interesting.
Now, the last 4 weeks, they've been a bad defense, but I didn't want to penalize them that much. I was trying to not overreact to a small sample size. But if you give the Lions an average defense for the rest of the year, the Eagles, we have the Eagles winning the Super Bowl now 21% of the time. The Bills at 17%. Ravens and Lions 14.
Okay.
Packers and Chiefs 9.
Okay.
Vikings 5, Steelers 3.
What sort of Mahomes down the stretch? Because I'm sure Mahomes will be back to the playoffs.
All I did was I in 12% of simulations this week, I took out Mahomes. That's it. You think about the 2020 season, he had the ankle sprain against Cleveland, and he came back and played the very next week.
Okay. The idea that they're going to throw him out there on Saturday on the short week against the Texans pass rush when he can't move, I mean, I can see them doing it, but it's banana pants. And then they face the following Wednesday. This would be a great opportunity for them to give him 2 weeks off, but you're right, there is precedent for them not doing it.
Or at least 1 week off.
Right.
And then play him in the short week on Christmas.
Play him on Christmas. All I don't want for Christmas is Carson Wentz in my stocking.
Don't forget, by the way, if you are watching us live, which we do Mondays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, we'll take your questions and comments. Camden Caps wants to know, Mike, how optimistic are you for the Eagles after the Jalen Hurts game? Maybe I'm wrong, but I was impressed.
I was totally impressed. It looks like they have temporarily smoothed over whatever interpersonal or tactical problems may be going on among the receiving core there. Jalen Hurts and Brown and Smitty got back to doing what they did best, which is that just you got a one-on-one matchup. Just go win. and Jalen just go get them the ball when they win. Put the ball up for them, and they're going to come down with it. They're going to make tough catches. They're going to make contested catches. That was excellent. The optimism here in the neighborhood and in the bar and everything are very high. I think the optimism receptors in my brain are fused a little bit. But the attitude here in Philly is very high about what this team has accomplished and overcome in the last couple of months.
One thing is, I realize I'm a hobby horse about Saquon Barkley and the schedule this year, but the running game wasn't really going against an average run defense. The Steelers were stopping the run. When they were icing the clock late in the game, they were doing it with passes. Hurts was passing. Like they'd run for like a yard and then like lose a yard. And then on like 3rd and 10, whatever, A.J. Brown, there you go. So I thought that was very like reasons for optimism about the passing game.
Exactly. He had like a couple of 3rd and long catches by Brown. He had a 2nd and 14 catch by Smitty on that final 10-minute clock munching drive. And you didn't get much from Saquon. Also in that game, you saw Kenneth Gainwell out there making a couple of big catch and run plays on his own, including 1 3rd down near the goal line where he catches an outlet pass and just blasts through a couple of tacklers to get the first down. And it's encouraging to see Jalen Hurts actually throwing the checkdowns and letting the backs, whether it's Gainwell or Barkley, mostly Gainwell right now, make those plays for him. So everything doesn't have to go through the top 2 wide receivers. But Aaron, now I'm listening to you and I'm worried that not only are you going to vote against Josh Allen for MVP, but vote against Saquon for Offensive Player of the Year.
No, I think I still would do Saquon for Offensive Player of the Year rather than Henry or Chase. Yeah. And there's this little bit of me that wants to put Penei Sewell on the list.
Yeah.
Like 3rd, like Barkley, Chase, and Sewell is kind of maybe where I'm going. The walkthrough in your walkthrough today, you waited until like the end of the article to talk about the 2 big games. And the reason why is, I think, a reasonable point, which is, what did we learn yesterday that we did not already know about these teams? I would say that you come away with optimism for the Philadelphia passing game.
Yes.
And more pessimism for the Lions defense.
Yes.
In part because of the injuries to McNeil and Davis. But I don't think we know anything about the Steelers and Bills that we didn't already know. The idea that the Bills are now unstoppable, they lost 2 weeks ago.
Right. Badly. They played poorly against
I'm not saying they're not a really good team, but they have their own defensive injuries. And Josh Allen doesn't do this in every game. Like, he's great, but it's not like he does this in every game.
Right.
So
sometimes he does it, and it's not enough, too. I mean, sometimes he does do this, and it doesn't get them the win.
I will say, by the way, about the Allen versus Lamar Jackson thing, I have to do some research later today. Okay. EPA stats have Buffalo better and Baltimore worse.
Okay.
And I need to figure out where the discrepancy is. Why does DVOA like Baltimore so much more than EPA does? It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's not like last year, I think everyone in the advanced stats community agreed the idea that Lamar Jackson should be the unanimous MVP made no sense. This year, if I vote for Jackson instead of Allen, I'm going out on a limb, even in the stats community, because of the difference between DVOA and EPA. So I have to look into what the differences are there. Besides penalties, a little bit of it is penalties.
Right, because everything I see, and I've been going through them again with the penalty apocalypse with the Ravens is unreal, and everything is penalties mixed with special teams, hidden points. I think that opponents are like 11 of 14 on 50-plus yard field goals agained the Ravens, and Tucker's in the
Well, Tucker can't hit anything, right?
And Tucker can't hit anything. He was okay yesterday, and that seems to be the thing. But yeah, the Ravens are this unbelievably self-destructive team. I learned nothing about the Steelers that I didn't know or I didn't suspect about them, which is that they are not in this tier.
Yes, I keep talking about the big 3 in the AFC. And to me, the big 3 in the AFC are the Ravens because of their DVOA, the Chiefs because of their record, and the Bills because of both.
Right. That's kind of it. And the Steelers are in this other tier. Better team than the Texans, but good heavens, that's not saying much. But like not up on the same caliber. Hitchhiker's
Pie says also Pickens is the Jenga piece for the Steelers offense, and I think that is they missed him. Yes,
that is absolutely the case.
They went deep to like Van Jefferson and stuff. That's not happening.
Van Jefferson was bad. They got one, the flea flicker to Austin, and it was underthrown. Austin came back for it, which is good. But yeah, they don't have that kind of passing attack when they don't have Pickens.
The market Super Bowl odds, by the way, go Bills and then Lions. And then the Eagles and Chiefs are tied for third.
Oh, it's different now. This is what I got.
And the Ravens and Packers.
Here's what I got from DraftKings right now. Bills plus 425. Eagles and Lions each at plus 450.
Oh, okay.
Chiefs plus 600. Ravens plus 850. Vikings plus 1,400. What's the value? I guess the Eagles are the value there at plus 450 based on.
I think so. I honestly think so. If you believe that the Lions' defensive injuries are very for real, then the Eagles have to be the value.
Right. And I'm increasingly leaning that way. And again, the pessimism and doomerism in my soul is not grounded in anything we're seeing on the field right now.
Apex says the Chiefs feel extremely overpriced by normie markets and are clearly the bad value bet. I think there is an assumption that the Chiefs will turn it on in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. The thing is that at this point, even after they won by 14 yesterday, turning it on in the playoffs doesn't make them better than Buffalo.
Right.
It just makes them equal to Buffalo.
Yeah, at best. And yesterday, I thought I was seeing the turn it on game yesterday.
I wanted it so bad. I was like, oh, come on. I want the Chiefs to please either lose or win by 30. My God, just win by 30, guys. Come on.
Well, if they had won by 30, then we'd have Patrick Mahomes and nothing to worry about next week. But instead, they went into that third quarter and had that other thing. Yeah, it's very gratifying when you watch the Eagles with 10 minutes left and the lead that they're going to find some way to manufacture a huge long drive and either run out the rest of the clock, kick a field goal, usually by running, yesterday by passing. The Chiefs take a 2-touchdown lead and just keep trying to throw the ball through the moon. It is incredibly frustrating to watch, and that allows opponents to get back into the game.
Talk about Detroit and Buffalo a little bit more. One thing I did note is this is what happens to Detroit when they fall behind and they can't use the running game.
Yeah.
Right? 35 yards on 13 carries for the running backs. I think that they may have given up on the running game a little bit too early, given that they were going to score a lot of points too, but they scored plenty of points, so it's hard to argue with their offense.
Right.
What did you think about the Dan Campbell onside kick with 12 minutes left?
It's a typical Dan Campbell move, and it was so in keeping with some of the other decisions that were being made throughout the game there, including, the Dan Skipper touchdown. There was a 4th and 4 that they converted. They ran some kind of flea flicker earlier in that game. It was just an aggressiveness move. I don't know the odds nowadays on onside kick. I know they're terrible.
It's like 7% to recover. I'm glad that I was shocked, honestly.
Yeah.
And happy that nobody wrote, this is analytics gone haywire. Nobody blamed this on analytics.
No.
This was just, he's aggressive.
Yeah.
I understand the thought process. The thought process is the Bills are scoring on every drive. We have to steal a possession. Yeah. If they get the ball at the 40, they're going to score at the same as if they got the ball at their own 30. It's only a 30-yard difference.
Right.
That's the thought process. The problem with that is, A, recovery rates on onside kicks are so low now. Like, compare this to what it would be like if you could still do a surprise onside kick and it had been a surprise onside kick rather than the onside kick is coming.
Right.
7% recovery on onside kicks. It's a terrible move. You want to do everything in your power to avoid the onside kick. The other problem is that the Bills didn't get the ball at the 40.
Oh, they got it at the 5.
Because nobody tackled Mac Hollins.
Right.
So I am not in favor of the move, and I honestly have not seen anybody who was in favor of the move. What I've seen is people saying they understand why he did.
Correct. That's kind of where I land on it. I kind of get it. You've been playing 2 scores behind for this entire game. Clock is running out, and you want to make this ultra aggressive move. So I do kind of see the logic behind it. But you're right. With no surprise element here, I don't know what you're going to get out of that.
But the Lions are 25th in defense over the last 4 weeks.
That's bad.
And Camden Cap says it's a dumb rule that you have to disclose you are doing it onside. What is the reason they made that rule? Because of the new kickoff because an onside sets up differently
Right.
than the low impact kickoff.
Yeah.
You have to declare you're doing an onside because you can't do one off the low impact kickoff with the return man way back and all that. You're not allowed to do that.
Right. I'd love them to come up with a tweak on that.
Well, we all know what the tweak is, and eventually we're getting to it. Eventually, we're going to do the 4th and 15 thing.
The Shiado rule. Well, 4th and 15, he would hit that. Dan Campbell would have gone for the 4th and 15 without question. He probably would have ran the ball too.
Like eventually, we're going to. That's just coming, and I think Troy Vincent even said something a week ago about it's not enough onside kicks are getting recovered, and they need to do something. So it's coming.
Right.
But yeah, the Lions defense is a real problem at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The Bills defense, I thought, has been worse in recent weeks than it really has been. They've had like a couple of bad games, and this was one, and the Rams won. But they've had some good games too. The Bills defense has not declined as much as I thought, but the Lions defense has been 25th over the last 4 weeks. Now that's only 4 weeks, and you don't want to overestimate from a small sample, but oh my God, it's just everybody is going down.
Right. And that's it. It's coupled with injuries. And like on Thursday, we were talking about, hey, look, we got these guys back. It looks like McNeil's going to be back. It looks like they're healthy in the secondary. Mosley's back. And then they take another step back. And it keeps going, and guys disappear off the back end of this, like Hutchinson and Rodriguez disappear on the back end. Quan Alexander, who's been hanging around the NFL for years, is a guy they brought in to try and stem the tide. And you saw what the Bills were doing to him.
Yeah. I want to talk about one sneaky team, by the way, on the rise. They are the number 3 team in weighted DVOA. Is the Green Bay Packers.
Wow.
Second in offense over the last 5 weeks, behind only Buffalo and ahead of Baltimore.
I'm surprised they're second in offense.
And their defense has been improving a bit too, although some of that last night was that Sam Howell is a sack machine.
I was on Seattle radio, and they're like, well, Sam Howell's not the answer, but what do you like going into next week? I'm like, against the Vikings? Against the Vikings pass rush?
Sam Howell is the answer. He is the answer, and the question is, who is taking sacks?
You got to look at that sack over-under next week against the Vikings. But yeah, that's the thing, because if he gets rid of the ball, he's actually okay. But that's such a big if with Sam Howell. But yeah, the Packers did what they had to do against him. They chased Geno Smith out of the game with an injury. Offense wasn't super efficient at converting into touchdowns. A lot of field goals, a lot of fumbles, things like that. But you can see how well they're moving the ball now. Dobbs is back, and that's added a dimension to what they have.
Yeah, it's interesting. They were talking about him as the number 1 receiver. I always think of Jaden Reed as the number 1 receiver.
It's vexing. Like Reed is more like the guy I think of getting the balls in the slot, getting it in space.
He's an Amon-Ra St. Brown style number 1 receiver, but I think of him as their top.
A little bit of that mixed with a Zay Flowers. And then but if it's a 3rd and 8, like I think of Dobbs.
We have no idea, by the way, about Geno Smith's knee injury. There's been no news so far this morning. I think some of that is that Seattle is on Pacific time.
It's 8 a.m. there. Give everybody a chance to wake up, get the machine cooked up.
In the simulation, I took him out 40% this week and 20% for the rest of the regular season.
Okay.
But I don't know. I have no idea what the deal is.
And that's one of the reasons in the playoff odds, the Seahawks are suddenly in really bad shape.
Yeah. Because if Sam Howell has to play against the Vikings.
Right.
And the Packers, not the Packers, the Vikings and who else do they play?
The Vikings is the big one, followed by.
I know they have the Rams in week 18.
Yeah, they got the Bears, and then they get the Rams in LA in week 18, which is a problem. Meanwhile, the Rams get. I know that the Cardinals have another get right game coming up against the Panthers, and the Rams get the Jets before a Cardinals Seahawks end. So there's a chance that the Seahawks take a loss while everyone else takes a win this coming week.
All right, let's look at the weighted DVOA top 15, actually.
Oh, wow.
Week 1 is down to 20%. Next week, week 1 falls out of the equation entirely.
Fascinating.
Not good for New Orleans. The reason why I wrote down 15 teams is that teams 10 through 15 are basically tied with each other.
All right.
So going from 15 up, Rams,
okay,
Commanders, Cardinals,
Okay.
Texans, 49ers, Chiefs.
49ers are finally working their way off the bottom of the list there.
Yeah, they dropped from 9th to 11th and weighted, while Kansas City climbed from 14th to 10th.
It's remarkable how low the Chiefs are, but you're right. It's a record, but not necessarily a statistical record.
The next two teams are basically tied as well. 9, Pittsburgh.
Okay.
8, Chargers.
Interesting. The Chargers are still that high. They laid an egg yesterday.
They fell. They laid a big egg. This was a big one for your Justin Herbert skepticism. This was a big Justin Herbert skepticism game and a big Baker Mayfield fan game and a big Mike Evans Hall of Fame discussion game. Like, this is like, look at Mike Evans, come back from injury. He is by far the best receiver on that team. Everybody has to be doubling him. He's still getting 2 touchdowns a game.
Yeah.
He's incredible.
He's the story of this team that remains in the playoff hunt, like in the post-Tom Brady shadow. He's the reason why. And I'll be nice with the Herbert skepticism. He came into the game with an injured ankle. Levante David knocked him down early in the game. He was slow getting up, and he was stuck kind of limping out there for a lot of that game. So that's one of the reasons he was unable to move the ball in the second half.
And the one thing we haven't talked about with Pittsburgh yet is not knowing what's going on with TJ Watt's injury.
Yes.
Because I forgot to put in, I should have had a TJ Watt penalty in the simulations, in some of the simulations, because I don't know what the story is with his injury.
Right. He was just walking around on the sidelines, and it looked like it was just like, well, we're not putting you back out there tonight, but we'll know more in the next day or two.
It would be interesting because if Watt is injured and loses the last 3 games of the season, it opens up for Defensive Player of the Year to go to our number 7 team, the Denver Broncos, and Patrick Surtain.
That would be an interesting choice. He had a good game yesterday, certainly. But he's
another good game for Patrick Surtain and Benito.
But Surtain is also hurt, so you have to watch out for that. I don't know.
Oh my God, everybody's getting hurt.
Everybody's hurt.
Number 6, Minnesota.
Okay.
And then a gap, and then we have our top 5. Buffalo is only 5th in weighted DVOA.
Wow.
This was great this week. But it's just one game. And if you remember correctly, DVOA did not like their performance against the Rams.
Didn't like their performance against the Rams. I remember they didn't like their performance against the Dolphins either in what turned out to be a close game.
4 and 3 are basically tied, which is Philadelphia and Green Bay.
Okay.
2 is Detroit. And number 1, the team that DVOA inexplicably just loves this year more than anything, any other stat out there, is the Baltimore Ravens.
It's stunning. Now, they could have won by 50 yesterday, but they were beating a Giants team where the opponent adjustment had to be.
Yeah, the opponent adjustment is strong for the Giants.
By the way,
honestly, not as strong as it should be because Jones is better than what they've had since, but strong.
By the way, one of the things where you see the Packers ahead of the Vikings, and Vikings fans might have their antenna up on that. I love going through the penalty data. The penalty data for the Ravens is horrendous. The penalty data for the Vikings is like magical. Like, they have an unbelievably good differential, favorable in terms of them. Part of that, I think, is crowd noise in Minnesota, where they've forced a lot of false starts and things like that. Part of it is defensive pass interference against Justin Jefferson. But I think the Vikings have a lot of things in their statistical portfolio that suggest they might be getting a few more breaks than their opponents, and that might tilt things a bit.
Well, we'll find out tonight because it's time to preview Monday Night Football, which is 2 games. 2 games. The ABC game at 8 is the 4-9 Bears against the 11-2 Vikings, and then on ESPN at 8:30, the 6-7 Falcons at the 2-11 Las Vegas Raiders. The Vikings win the division 26% of the time, and the 1 seed 15% of the time if they win this.
Oh, wow.
If they lose this, they only win the division 7% of the time, and the 1 seed 3% if they lose.
But they're not going to lose. The Bears are a mess.
The Vikings with a much better pass offense against a Bears team that's much better on pass defense, but the Bears pass defense has fallen in recent weeks. But the Bears are 31st against the run, so it's a good Aaron Jones.
And Cam Akers.
It's also interesting. The Bears are very good against number 1 receivers.
Interesting.
and 31st against number 2 receivers.
Gosh,
which I think makes some sense because Jalen Johnson and Tyreek Stevenson, who would you want to be covered by?
Right. You're going to avoid Jalen Johnson, especially when you can. When you say we're probably going to win this game because the opponent's not going to score a lot of points, why tempt fate? Gosh, if only the Vikings had Jordan Addison or somebody they could throw to when they're a number 1 guy, like for the last 6 weeks. Huh?
Yeah, I completely agree. Now, there is a couple of things that sort of favor the Bears a little bit.
All right.
Caleb Williams is actually one of the best passers up the middle this year.
Random.
Where the Vikings defense is relatively weak compared to the sides.
Okay.
And Sam Darnold is the best quarterback in the league against man coverage, and the Bears play more zone.
Okay.
Still, I think the line is 7, and I like the Vikings.
Yeah, I feel like the Vikings over the middle of the field, that's when like a particularly sharp quarterback catches one of their blitz packages where they've vacated the middle and they spot that and they get the ball there. Hey, that's great. I could see Jared Goff finding that. I don't necessarily think Caleb Williams going to find that. I'll take the Vikings. Don't like laying 7, but I'd lay 7 for the Vikings at home, the way the Bears in particular are playing.
Apex says, thank goodness that Minnesota still has to play both Green Bay and Detroit so we can get a proper sort of the NFC.
Yeah, let's see those games. Let's really get these teams to measure up.
Falcons at Raiders. If the Falcons win, we still only have their chances of winning the division at 15%. Basically, in part because the simulator says they're going to win. I mean, the simulator says it's whatever, 80 or 85% chance they're going to win because the Raiders are 28th in DVOA. Yeah. Like it's not, they're not good. One thing I did notice is the Ravens are 29th against tight ends and the Falcons are 9th against tight ends, which is important because the tight ends are obviously important to both of these offenses. Yes. But that suggests maybe not the greatest of Bauer's games, although he's still clearly their best receiver.
Yes.
And maybe more from Pitts than usual.
Oh, gosh. You know, better.
We're sick of waiting for that, right? Like,
waiting for Pitts for 4 years in fantasy. I will skip on that. By the way, no Max Crosby tonight. That's
no more Max Crosby for the rest of the season. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the 3 guys you might actually care about for the Raiders or worry about. He ain't there no more.
The go to sleep early special.
Okay.
The go to sleep early special is watch the other game. But the other go to sleep early special, the Falcons offense is 6th before halftime and 17th after, while their defense is 31st before halftime and 11th after. Mm-hmm. First half over 22.5.
I like it. The Falcons are a very good first drive team, by the way.
Yes.
I never bet on them, but they usually come out with that scripted drive, a lot of Bijan, Kirk knowing exactly where he's going to go with the ball, and could get early points. So if you're a first drive weirdo, degenerate, then you might want to, take the Falcons to score.
Falcons for a touchdown on the first drive.
Yeah, go for that. But I also like the first half over in that, even though again it's a Falcons game, I'm not touching it.
Right, which the line is Falcons -5.5, and usually our spiel is do not bet on Falcons games. I think I would go Raiders plus 5.5 if I had to bet on it.
Okay.
But do not bet on Falcons games. Just don't do it.
Just don't. Yeah, because the 5.5 point spread suggests a 5-point Falcons win, like a 22-17 Falcons.
Yes, that's how this works with
that's
the
how this works. Yes.
All right, that does it for our review of Week 15. Thank you to everybody who is listening and watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the show. Tell your friends about it, and we will be back on Thursday to preview Week 16, and we will know more about these quarterback injuries by then.
Yes.
But we already know about the Lions injuries, and they're bad.
They're bad.
For Mike Tanier, I am Aaron Schatz. Everybody enjoy, and so long, and we'll talk to you on Thursday.